Hello everyone and welcome to my channel YNR Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The air around the Abbott mansion turned to ice as those words erupted from Kyle's throat, trembling with panic and disbelief. Claire's confession, whatever it truly was, had just detonated the fragile calm that had barely been holding everyone together. She stood there, trembling, her face pale but determined, while Kyle's breath came in shallow gasps, his chest heaving like he'd been sucker-punched by the truth itself. Holden stood between them, stunned, the echo of Claire's words still ringing in his ears like a church bell at a funeral. The truth had finally clawed its way to the surface, and in one breathless instant, the perfect illusion that Claire had crafted came crashing down. For weeks, the tension had been building. Even Claire Grace had begun to crumble under the weight of a secret that was so dark and intricate that she had to keep it a secret. Holden, always suspicious, had sensed something wasn't right. The way she'd look away when asked about her past, the mysterious calls she'd take when she thought no one was listening, and her constant unease around Kyle. It was all too much to ignore. So when Holden cornered her in the Abbott guest house, demanding the truth once and for all, Claire had no more strength left to lie. "I told him everything," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the roaring in Kyle's ears. "He needed to know about me, about what really happened." Kyle's body went rigid. He could feel the blood drain from his face, his vision tunneling, the edges of reality starting to blur. No, Claire, tell me you didn't," he rasped, gripping the back of a chair to steady himself. But she didn't deny it. Her silence was louder than any words she could have said. And then it hit him like a ton of bricks. The secret she just told Holden wasn't hers alone. It was his too. Something he buried deep, locked away. Something that could destroy them both if it ever got out. Trying to make sense of the emotional storm unfolding in front of him, Holden's eyes flickered between them. "Kyle, what's going on? What did she mean? What truth?" He pressed, his voice sharp but laced with disbelief. Kyle couldn't answer. His lungs refused to cooperate. Every breath felt like fire as he stumbled backward, hands clutching at his chest. Panic swelled within him, merciless and unstoppable. Claire rushed forward, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Kyle, breathe. Please, you have to breathe," she begged, but her words only made it worse. His mind replayed her confession in an endless loop, her voice confessing the very thing he'd warned her never to say. "You told him about that night?" Kyle gasped between ragged breaths, his voice cracking under the weight of fear. Holden froze, the meaning dawning on him slowly. "What night?" he asked cautiously, though deep down, he already feared the answer. Claire's lips quivered. "The night at Newman Tower," she finally whispered. The room went silent. Holden's eyes widened in disbelief, while Kyle's knees buckled. He moaned, "No," before falling to the ground and clutching his chest. "You weren't supposed to say that. Claire, you promised me." She fell to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she tried to help him breathe. "I had to. He deserved to know the truth. It was killing me to keep lying." But to Kyle the truth was poison. Every detail of that night, the argument, the broken glass, the blood, came flooding back. He had worked so hard to forget, to rebuild, to move on. But now it was all out in the open, all because Claire couldn't keep her mouth shut. Holden was staring at them like he was seeing ghosts. "You mean to tell me you two were there when it happened?" Claire's sobs broke through the tension. "Yes," she admitted softly. "We were there. And it wasn't an accident." Kyle's head snapped up, his eyes bloodshot and wild. "Stop. Don't say another word." But it was too late. The harm was already done. Holden's face went pale as the truth began to form in his mind. A truth that tied Claire and Kyle to one of the darkest nights in Genoa City's recent history. The panic attack hit Kyle like a wave, pulling him under completely. His heart pounded erratically, his vision dimmed, and his breath came in short, desperate gasps. Claire frantically whispered, "Kyle, please, you're okay, it's okay," as she tried to hold him. He could feel himself slipping, drowning in guilt and terror. Alarmed by the screams, Jack immediately entered the room. "What's happening here?" he demanded, rushing to his son's side. The sight of Kyle on the floor sent a jolt of fear through him. "Kyle, talk to me." Claire turned, her face streaked with tears. "I'm so sorry, Jack. I didn't mean for this to happen. What did you do to him? Jack snapped, his protective instincts kicking into overdrive. Holden stepped forward hesitantly. She told me something I don't think any of us were supposed to hear, he said quietly. Jack looked between them, confused and furious. What are you talking about? But Claire couldn't bring herself to repeat it. The confession had already torn enough lives apart. I told him about the night at Newman Tower, she said finally, her voice shaking. About what really happened between Kyle and her. Jack's eyes widened in horror. You mean? No, that was supposed to be buried. He turned to Kyle, whose breathing had finally slowed but whose face was etched with devastation. Claire's words echoed through the mansion like a curse. Everyone had believed that night was an accident, a tragic event that left scars on more than one family. However, the entire foundation of that lie had just been destroyed if Claire's confession was true. Kyle sat up slowly, his face pale and sweaty. You don't understand, he said hoarsely. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. She came after me, I tried to stop her. His voice cracked, the memories too painful to relive. Holden stared at him, realizing just how deep the secret ran. You covered it up? Kyle nodded weakly. My father helped me. We all did. We thought it was the only way to protect the family. Jack's jaw tightened. It was the only way, he said firmly, his tone daring anyone to challenge him. But Claire did. No, she said through her tears. It was the wrong way. We've been living with this lie for too long, and it's destroying us. I couldn't keep it in anymore. Her voice broke, and for a moment even Jack couldn't speak. The truth had cracked open the Abbott family like a fault line, and the aftershocks were just beginning. Holden looked at Claire with a mixture of sympathy and disbelief. You realize what you've done, don't you? This changes everything. Kyle looked at her too, his expression torn between heartbreak and rage. You didn't just betray me, he whispered. You ruined everything I was trying to protect. Claire's tears fell harder. I ruined nothing. The truth was always going to come out, Kyle. You just didn't want to face it. Kyle pushed himself to his feet, unsteady but furious. You had no right. His voice cracked, raw and full of pain. You think you're helping? You just put a target on our backs. You think Victor's going to let this slide? Or Nick? Or Summer? Holden looked between them, realizing that this wasn't just a family secret. It was something much bigger, something dangerous. What exactly happened that night? He asked again, more gently this time. Claire met his eyes, her face pale but resolute. There was a confrontation. She found out something she wasn't supposed to. She attacked Kyle. There was a struggle and she fell. Jack's face turned to stone. Enough, he growled. You don't need to say any more. But Holden had heard enough to know this wasn't some minor cover-up. This was the kind of secret that could destroy families, careers, maybe even lives. The weight of the confession hung heavy in the air as Kyle sank back into the chair, his hands trembling. I can't believe this is happening again, he muttered, staring at nothing. I thought we buried it. I believed we could continue. Claire knelt beside him again, her voice soft but pleading. You can't bury the past, Kyle. Not always. I tried to protect you, but the truth has a way of finding us. Jack turned away, his jaw tight, eyes glistening with unshed tears. You don't understand what this means, Claire. Everything we built and everything our family stands for will be lost if this gets out. But Claire wasn't backing down anymore. Then maybe it's time the world saw who we really are, she said quietly. The words hit Kyle like another blow to the chest. His heart pounded again, panic threatening to surge. He gripped the arm of the chair, gasping. I can't breathe. Jack rushed to him, trying to calm him down while Claire cried out in anguish. Holden, realizing how bad it had gotten, grabbed Kyle's phone and called for help. By the time the paramedics arrived, the Abbott mansion was a battlefield of guilt and regret. Kyle was pale and barely conscious, hooked up to oxygen while Claire sat nearby, her face buried in her hands. Jack paced the floor, rage simmering just beneath the surface. This family has survived scandals, affairs, betrayals, but this, Jack said bitterly, this might be the one that breaks us. Holden stood silently in the corner, processing everything. The truth was out now and there was no going back. Claire's mask had been ripped away, revealing the truth about her connection to that fateful night, and the terrible secret she and Kyle had kept hidden. As the paramedics wheeled Kyle out, his weak voice broke the silence. "You should have left it buried, Claire. Some truths don't deserve the light." Claire looked up at him, eyes filled with sorrow. "Maybe not," she whispered. "But at least now it's real." And with that, the Abbott family's carefully constructed world began to crumble. The consequences, which would be nothing short of catastrophic, had finally surfaced. A cascade of events that no one, not even Jack, could control had been initiated by Claire's unmasking. And as Kyle's panic faded into unconsciousness, one thing became terrifyingly clear. The truth might have set them free, but it also might destroy them all. The mansion fell into silence, save for the distant wail of the ambulance fading into the night. Claire stood at the window watching it go, knowing there was no undoing what she had done. The secret was out, the mask was gone, and the war for the truth had only just begun. Kyle Abbott's voice sliced through the heavy silence inside the Abbott mansion like a knife. His face had gone pale, his breath coming in quick, uneven bursts. Every word Claire had just uttered to Holden felt like a bomb exploding in his chest. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she wasn't supposed to tell him. Not that. Under the weight of her confession, Claire Grace stood frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks. She was completely shaken by the mixture of betrayal, panic, and disbelief in Kyle's expression. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely holding together. "But I couldn't keep it in anymore." He deserved to know. Holden, still reeling from what Claire had just told him, looked between them in stunned confusion. "Kyle, she said you were there that night, the night at Newman Tower," he stammered. "That you?" "Stop." Kyle's voice cracked, his entire body tightening like a coiled spring. "Don't say it." His pulse thundered in his ears as his lungs burned. It felt like the walls were closing in. Claire had just ripped open a wound that had been buried deep for years, and now it was bleeding in front of everyone. Holden's eyes widened, his mind racing to piece together the truth. "So it's true?" he asked, stepping closer. "You covered it up?" Kyle stumbled backward, gripping the edge of the table, his chest heaving. "You don't understand," he rasped. "You have no idea what you're talking about." His words were shaky, frantic, but Holden wasn't backing down. "Then make me understand," Holden demanded. "Because right now it sounds like you've both been lying to everyone in this family, and to me." Claire flinched, guilt and terror flashing across her face. She broke down in tears and said, "I tried to protect him. We both did what we thought we had to." Kyle's breathing grew harsher, faster. "You told him everything?" he gasped. "You told him about her?" Claire's silence was answer enough. The color drained completely from Kyle's face. "No, no, no," he murmured, backing away. "You don't know what you've done." Holden's confusion deepened. "Who's her? What is this about?" Kyle's head was spinning. His hands trembled uncontrollably as he pressed a fist to his chest, trying to draw in air that just wouldn't come. "I can't breathe," he whispered. "I can't." Claire rushed toward him, panic overtaking her sorrow. "Kyle, look at me. Breathe with me," she pleaded, her hands cupping his face. It's fine, you're safe." But Kyle wasn't hearing her. The memories were flooding back. Flashes of that night, the argument, the shattered glass, the scream, and then the silence. He'd buried it all so deep, so far away, thinking he could outrun it. But now Claire's confession had dragged it back into the light, and it was suffocating him. Jack Abbott burst into the room, alarmed by the noise. "What's going on?" His eyes widened when he saw his son gasping for breath, pale and trembling. "Kyle!" he shouted, dropping to his knees beside him. "Son, speak with me." Claire turned to Jack, her face streaked with tears. "I told Holden the truth," she said shakily. "About the night at Newman Tower. About what happened to." "Don't you dare say her name," Jack thundered, his fury igniting instantly. "We agreed that night never happened, do you understand? Never." Holden's jaw dropped. "So it's true," he said softly, realization dawning. "You both were there that night. You covered up what happened." Jack stood up sharply, his eyes blazing. "This doesn't concern you, Holden. You stay out of it." Holden shook his head, refusing to back down. You can't keep covering for them. Someone died that night. Kyle's ragged breathing filled the silence that followed. He was trembling violently, his hand clutching at his chest as though trying to keep his heart from tearing out of it. I didn't mean to, he whispered hoarsely. She came after me. It happened by accident. Claire knelt beside him again, sobbing. It wasn't your fault, Kyle. I saw what happened. You tried to stop her. Holden's expression hardened. And then you both just what? Buried it. Jack's glare could have cut glass. We did what we had to do to protect this family, he said bitterly. You weren't there. You don't know what kind of damage that night could have done. The damage is already done. Claire cried out, her voice breaking. It's still destroying us. Look at him. Kyle's breathing quickened again, his face twisting in anguish. I can't do this, he gasped. I can't breathe, it's too much. His chest heaved violently, his vision blurring. Jack turned back to him, panic finally taking over his anger. Kyle, look at me. Slow down your breathing. Come on, son. In through your nose, out through your mouth. But Kyle was slipping, his body trembling uncontrollably. You weren't supposed to tell him, he managed between shallow breaths. You promised me. Claire shed more tears. I know, she whispered. But I couldn't live with it anymore. I thought if I told the truth, maybe we could finally move on. Jack's voice hardened again. You just destroyed everything, Claire. Everything we built to keep this family safe. Holden shook his head, staring at the three of them in disbelief. Safe? You think this is safe? You've been living with a lie that could ruin lives. And now you've dragged me into it too. The sound of sirens faintly echoed in the distance. The paramedics were on their way, summoned by Holden when Kyle's panic attack grew worse. The minutes felt like hours as they all stood frozen in a storm of fear, guilt, and truth. Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I thought he deserved to know. I thought you deserved to breathe again, Kyle. You've been dying under the weight of this secret. Kyle looked up at her, his eyes glassy with tears. You don't understand, he said, his voice trembling. Telling the truth doesn't set you free. It just changes the way the cage looks. As they applied an oxygen mask to Kyle's face, the emergency medical personnel rushed in and diverted Kyle's attention away from her. Jack stepped aside, his fury simmering into helplessness as he watched his son struggle to stabilize. Holden stood in the corner, pale and shaken, while Claire backed against the wall, sobbing uncontrollably. When the chaos quieted and Kyle was being prepped to leave for the hospital, Jack turned on Claire again. His voice was low and venomous. You had no right. You weren't a member of this family at the time. You didn't have to carry it. But now you've just handed our enemies the one thing they could use to destroy us. Claire looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. Maybe the Abbotts need to be destroyed if this is what it takes to keep your secrets. Jack's face darkened. You think truth fixes everything? Doesn't. It ruins people. It ruins families. Holden stepped closer. Maybe families that live on lies are already ruined. No one spoke after that. The only sound was the steady beep of the paramedics' monitor and Kyle's faint, uneven breathing. When they finally wheeled him out, Claire followed behind, her eyes never leaving his pale face. At the hospital, as Kyle lay hooked up to monitors, the oxygen mask still over his face, Claire sat by his side, her guilt eating her alive. She brushed his hair back tremblingly, whispering, I just wanted to help. I didn't mean to hurt you. Kyle stirred, his eyes fluttering open. His voice was barely audible through the mask. You told him. I had to, she said softly. It was tearing me apart. I thought it would set us free. Kyle's eyes filled with tears. You set me on fire, he whispered. You told the one thing that could ruin me. My dad. This family. Everything. His voice cracked with pain and exhaustion. You think confession heals? Doesn't. It kills slowly. Claire's heart broke at his words. I thought you'd understand. I thought if you didn't have to carry it alone anymore. Some things, he interrupted, aren't meant to be shared. Jack felt the weight of everything pressed down on him as he stood in front of the fire at the mansion, holding a glass of scotch. Holden lingered by the door, watching him. You can't hide it anymore, Holden said quietly. Claire's confession changes everything. The truth's out now. whether you like it or not. Jack stared into the flames. Then we'll deal with it, he said grimly. The Abbotts usually do. But deep down even he knew. This was one secret that might finally be their undoing. When Claire returned from the hospital that night, she found Jack waiting for her. He's resting, she said softly. Jack nodded, his expression unreadable. You may have told the truth, he said after a long silence, but you've destroyed whatever future you and Kyle could have had. Claire swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe that's the price of being honest. Jack's eyes narrowed. Or maybe it's the cost of betrayal. She turned away, tears silently falling again. The mansion felt colder than ever. The truth had torn through it like a storm, leaving nothing but ruin in its wake. As Claire walked up the stairs, she could still hear Kyle's voice echoing in her mind, "You should have left it buried." And for the first time she wondered if he was right. Because in unmasking herself, she hadn't just revealed a secret. She'd unleashed something far worse.